Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Future Successors Podcast, where the future is now. I'm Jared Hunter, joined by Alan Cooley. How you doing, Alan?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good.
Dope.
Going back to what we talked about. The podcast stuff, I really like doing it. It's cool, It's something new to me. Like how they say, you only grow when you're uncomfortable. So it's really like a state of mind for me where it's like, I like doing it. It's very interesting. It helped me like think outside the box instead of me just doing something that I like doing. So Miss Nikki just like she's teaching me different things and just taking me outside the box, meeting new people.
What do you want to do?
I want to be an athletic trainer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to Morehouse in August.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. And that was a tough decision as well because you got a lot of college decisions, but I felt like Morehouse was like home.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what does that job field entail for you? Like, what would you be required to do?
As an athletic trainer, so that's like every day. You're the first guy inside the sports facility and the last guy out of the sports facility. So you're just attending to athletes, like medically wise, like making sure you're pertaining to minor and major injuries, making sure they stay healthy, they eat healthy, just things like that for the most part.
So, I know you're going to ask me some questions. I'm just curious.
Yes.
So, what are some of the soft skills you feel like you need for that? As opposed to, like, technically knowing how to play the sport, right? Like, what are some soft skills you feel like you would end up having to tackle?
I'll say a people's person, wanting to be around people every day. I would say probably being, what's the word? When you want to help somebody a lot, because you need that's the job where you really helping somebody else. Just not being. I would say not being selfless. Being selfless.
Right.
Not worrying about yourself all the time. You got to tend to other athletes because that's your job. Other than that, it's just really like communicating and stuff. Regular job stuff.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that is because I thought it was kind of interesting about like why you're doing this,
Yes.
right? And this, perhaps you might feel like this disconnects from where you ultimately want to go.
Yes.
But one of the soft skills that you mentioned at the end of that was communication, right? And I feel like this is a great opportunity for you to sharpen that skill, especially when you're dealing with people like me that you don't know, you don't have no background and experience with. So for you to be able to cultivate a conversation and to learn about whoever's sitting across from you in that split second is something I think is going to be a skill that you're going to end up having to use when you go into these other environments. Because arguably, if you were trying to encourage an athlete to come to your program compared to somebody else's, you're going to have to get them to warm up to you quickly. And communicating with them and having a conversation with them that's valuable to both you and them is going to require you both being able to communicate and then also being able to listen. And like you said, be selfless in those moments. So I think that it's interesting that you're in this space because I think that it's going to intensify a skill set that you're ultimately going to need.
Now, you have a pretty unique story. Coming from Albany State. You pledged Alpha at Albany, and then going to, was it Savannah State? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
Savannah College of Art and Design.
Savannah College of Art and Design. How was the experience at Albany State? Because I know I have a twin sister. She's going to Albany State.
Oh, nice.
She's in the summer program right now, actually, as we speak. But she's going to Albany State to become a nurse. How was that experience at Albany State, HBCU?
So I'm originally from New York. So I used to visit the South. My mother and my father were both from the South. My father's from Alabama. My mother was from Georgia. So a lot of my upbringing was in the South, but I'm not from the South per se. So going to Albany State was an incredible experience for me because it gave me a different sense of culture than I was accustomed to on a regular basis. On an educational standpoint, I feel like I got a lot of information that I needed and I'm using in different types of ways, very much like we were just communicating about, like doing the podcast may not seem like it aligns with where you ultimately want to go, but using these skills in other ways have been valuable or will be valuable. And for me, they were. So I've been lucky enough to forge some very kind of like unique relationships at Albany State that have traveled and kept me along the way my entire life. And I mean, the experience at Albany State is significantly different than at SCAD, but they both have their benefits. And they both contributed to ultimately where I've kind of landed thus far.
Yes. So you're here at the Future Successors Podcast. I know you know a little bit about Future Successors, but I'll give you a little detail. Future Successors is a nonprofit organization that teaches inner city youth about leadership and entrepreneurship. And so we just meet people like you that's doing great and just very successful. And you tell us your story and the steps you took to become successful. And we just take notes and we just live through that day by day. And that will help us become what we want to become. And so I know you see success in the name. How do you define success?
Success for me is the ability to be able to provide for my family and live a life that I feel like has value and adds value to the people that are in it, and internally and intrinsically makes me happy. I think that's how I define success. I mean, I think that changes throughout the days as I learn more, as I experience more, as I mature, as different stimuli in my life change. My definitions of success change.
Okay, so the time when you were at Savannah College of Arts and Design, just tell me about how SCAD was and when you were there and what you did there and how that prepared you to go from there to the collective, the Cool Collective group, for doing photography for them and design for them and everything like that.
Yeah, so my undergraduate degree from Albany State is in computer science. Like a bunch of people I know, once I graduated from college, I was trying to find a job and couldn't find a job because I needed to have experience, right? And nobody would give me a job, so I would have experience. So on the side, I was taking pictures. I've always kind of taken pictures, but I never thought of it as being a profession. I thought it was a hobby. I didn't know that was a thing, that you could make a living as a photographer in any kind of significant way. Whatever the case is, when I couldn't find a job, I was trying to learn more about photography, felt like I was bumping my head, found out about SCAD, and decided to pitch myself into trying to get into the school. And I don't know how, they accepted me. So I moved from Albany to Atlanta because I actually went to the SCAD campus in Atlanta and got my master's in fine art. And SCAD is a completely different institution. The way that they approach education is significantly different than Albany State was, but they're both equally valuable. It was just a different concept, different pedagogy from the very beginning, right? So at SCAD, I think that the experience was a little bit more free in the sense of how they structured their classes. The expectations or how we cultivated the work or the assignments was different because if you were going to an art school, you could understand that it's a little bit more free than in a computer science program where the answer is more finite. Like 1 + 1 doesn't change because of how you feel, right? Like it's still the same thing. And I think that at Albany State, when I was in there for computer science, the numbers were definitive. Like there was no, if I got it wrong, it was wrong. And at SCAD, on the other hand, my experience was much more about me being able to explain my perspective. And I think that there was just value in being able to go through that process.
Yes, I know you have a lot of experience. You've been to a lot of different places with photography and things like that. And in order to be in those places, it took grit, grind, and hard work. But what was that extra sauce beyond grit, grind, and hard work that it was needed for you to be in those different places and be the best you?
Add value. I mean, that's my personal motto. My personal motto is to add value in every situation that I come into. So in every scenario, you have certain expectations, right? Everybody expects you to do, at the very least for a job, you're expected to do what you've been hired to do, right? So if you find moments in those scenarios to add value and make yourself invaluable, it'll allow you to stay in rooms longer. It'll allow you to enter into rooms you otherwise would not be in. And that was what I've always used to try to help propel my business and myself, was to add value to every situation I walked into.
Okay. So ups and downs. I know you probably experienced a lot going through, the timeline of where you've been. How have you handled your ups and downs in the career field that you are in?
I think that for me, I've just kind of stayed focused on what my objective was within those specific roles. So whatever I was planning to do, I just kept my eyes focused on that. I mean, I've picked up more skills about how to deal with things as I progressed, as we all do, right? But ultimately, that's just what I kind of kept my why in front of me, and I use that as my motivation to stay focused.
Now, do you have a relationship with God?
Mm-hmm.
Now, has God affected the places you've been? Have you spoke to him about different stuff. Like, how was that relationship between you and God, and how has that helped you get to where you are?
Yeah, I think that he's ever present, obviously, and I feel that I'm able to use my conversations with him to find my grounding, to give me a more level head, and to stay focused. Quite honestly, I have to believe that every situation that I've been faced with, I've been also equipped with the tools to be able to make it through. And I think that that all comes from God. So I don't know if I'm very, and I'm not suggesting you should or shouldn't be, but I don't know if I'm very like churchy or
Yes.
Bible-y or whatever the E would be, but I have a relationship with God, and I definitely lean into that.
You know, a lot of people, like, when you go to church, everybody's like, oh, you got to go to church every Sunday to have a good relationship with God. You got to listen to church music every day.
Right.
You got to do your Bible studies every day and
Right.
all that other stuff. But I don't believe you should have to. You don't have to do that. Everybody's relationship with God is different. So the relationship I'm going to have with God is going to be different from the relationship you have with God. And I'm going to bless him differently and do all those other things differently than you. So I feel that's great. Your perspective on that is really key to what you're doing in your life. But other than that, networking. I know you have a great relationship with Ben. We know Ben. That's my guy. We play golf a lot. But explain to me how networking has put you in those different positions, in those different rooms with people that have helped your career.
Yeah, so a certain, speaking honestly, right? Like, there's no cameras here, right? There's a certain amount you can do by knowing how to do the thing. And then there's a certain amount you can do by having relationships with the people that can put you in those positions, right? Like, so you could learn everything in the book and have no connections, and you might very well make it. Or you could know people that are in the positions that you aspire to get into, and you can know less and be able to get into those positions simply because of the relationships you have with those people. I mean, the best combination obviously is to know the subject matter and to build the relationships, but where the subject matter starts to dwindle, the relationships will reign superior. And I've learned that in my experience in navigating my business and in the entertainment industry when I was doing a lot of work in that space, or the commercial world. It is about relationships. And in those relationships, being able to add value will always make somebody want to hire you again or hit you up or refer you for a project or a job or any other opportunity, because when you build those relationships and you add value in those scenarios, what happens is the people that referred you feel like they get a little bit of the added benefit as well, right? So I'm going to connect you to that situation because I know you're going to do a great job, and they're going to give me praise for bringing you into it and you doing a great job.
Yes.
Right? So I made it a point at the very beginning of all of this to network and to build relationships with my clients. So it was more than a transactional thing, that there was a personal thing there, so that they understood that they could depend on me, and that I would make it a point to do the best that I could, not because I was looking for the check, but because I wanted to make sure that the relationship was good. And I think networking is an invaluable tool. And you mentioned Ben. I think that in some ways I've learned that from being friends with Ben. Ben is great at being able to navigate those spaces and build relationships with people that are able to like last for years. And I think that that's, you need that. And in any field that you're in, you need that.
Yes. So every day for Alan, what is every day like for Alan and what you do? What is every day like? So from when you wake up to when you go to sleep at night, what is every day for you?
Well, I mean, I'm married. I got 2 kids under 3 years old. So the beginning, middle, and end of the day, in some capacity, deal with my kids, making sure that they're okay, making sure that they're up and ready for the day. In addition to that, it's just the regular kind of administrative work of my business. If I'm not handling the pre-production of a project, or doing an actual production, or finalizing to give clients deliverables. So it's like a sequence of those types of events, making sure my kids are good, obviously making sure my wife is good, then like an email, follow-up, contract confirmation, details from a production, to actually executing on the production and finishing off the production by providing deliverables. And it's like a cyclical experience. So you build relationships with people, keep in contact with emails or other means of communication. And then in there, I'm peppering in personal projects to help cultivate my eye and other opportunities. When I didn't have two kids, I probably would have did more networking events, right? But that's usually what the routine is. And then taking some time for myself and for my family.
Yeah. Now with having kids, how has having kids changed your life?
I mean, every way imaginable, right? Like
Yeah.
if you were about to buy, I don't know, if you were about to buy 2 pair of shoes, maybe you got to buy some flip flops right now because you got to send the money over there for the kid. I mean, every way, right? Like if I want a certain thing to eat, I have to manage whether or not my kids are going to eat that thing.
Yeah.
So then I might end up eating something I wouldn't necessarily want because I know that they'll eat it, right? Like every single way. So and none of that necessarily is a bad thing because I don't know if that sounds or if it has some type of negative connotation.
Yes.
But even the motivation around me working, right? Like my motivation around me working was putting numbers on the board for myself, right? Doing bigger projects for myself, right? I don't know if it was to pat myself on the back or that was just to show myself that I was doing the things that I aspired to do. Now it's much more a matter of trying to create something that will leave behind something for my kids, right? Like it's about something other than me now. And I think that motivates me in a bunch of different ways, but it also changes a lot.
Yes, and having a wife. I feel like that's important when you have kids because that two-parent household, it teaches them things that they wouldn't know in a one-parent household. So how important is that wife in the house with you and just showing the kids and when you can't be there, she's there, how important that is to...
I'm going to answer this probably differently than you're asking it. Aside from the kids,
Yes.
me having my partner, my wife, is easily one of the reasons that I've been able to make success or have success in my chosen profession. Like I think that is understated and underrepresented significantly to have a partner that you can depend on, that you believe in, that believes in you, and that supports you while you support them. I think that has been one of the single greatest factors in my ability to be able to make progress in this field. I think that I was doing all right before her, but now I'm doing a little bit better since her, right? And I think that trickles down into every other aspect of our lives, right? The kids see our union and see our relationship and understand what it looks like to love or be loved, right? And I think that manifests itself in their actions as well, right? Because they treat us the way that they see us treating each other. They speak to us the way that they see us speaking to each other. And I think that there's value in all of that.
I know you dream every day. I know you got your dreams change and your goals change and a lot of things like that. But what is the championship for you? Because you know you got the NBA Finals championship. That's the sports one. But as a photographer and what you do, what is the championship to you? Or whether that's you being on a summer vacay or you having your own island or just taking you and your kids somewhere and just living forever. You won the lottery or something like that. What is just the championship to you?
You know, man, I got a whole bunch of answers to that, right? But the one I think about it, the way that I think about that is like the only reason why I started like taking pictures professionally was because nobody would hire me.
Yes.
Right? And I was thinking like, as soon as I get a real job, I'll stop taking pictures. Right? Like it was like, this picture thing is cool, but I got to get a real job. And as soon as I get this real job, then then I'm gonna just stop taking pictures. I'll do pictures on the side so I can lock in on this real job. I've been a photographer for like 18 years now, like 17 years now. I'm a full-time photographer for like 17 years. I've traveled the world. I've bought homes and decent-looking cars and had incredible experiences, and all of that has been attributed to the things that photography has afforded me. So, I mean, the championship is the fact that I'm here. I'm not on the side of the street. You know what I mean? I'm here. I could have been. You know what I'm saying? Like the championship for me is that I'm able to live a life that I'm proud of from something that I believed in myself to do. Like I took a risk on myself. I could have chose a profession or a job that was lackluster so that I could make ends meet, but I decided to take a risk on myself and it's kind of paid off. And I think that is the championship for sure.
Yeah. So if you could go back maybe to when you were like high school years, maybe a senior in high school or a junior in high school or a freshman in college, what one key advice would you give yourself to now that you think would help you?
If I'm keeping it G, I wouldn't. Nothing. I mean, every one of my friends, as including myself, had experiences when they were younger that perhaps their parents or adults at that time would have wished that they had not experienced.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. But the vast majority of those people in their adulthood are killing it. And I don't know if you change any one of those things, would the outcome be the same? Mm-hmm. Right? Like I'm not like I wasn't getting in trouble crazy when I was a kid, but I'm sure that I made decisions that my parents didn't necessarily agree with. And I probably did some stuff that I look back at and was like, dang, I wish I hadn't done those things. Yes. But I wouldn't change any of it because I don't know how much that affects where I'm at now. So, man, I got nothing. Yeah. Not a thing.
Thank you for taking your time out to come visit us at the podcast and you just dropping your knowledge on us.
For sure, man.
That's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you. Thank you for coming, man.
Man, I appreciate it, man.